WIFO FM Jesup, Big Dog Country of 105.5 FM. It is now time for the world-famous Butch and Bob Show here on WIFO for this 23rd day of August, and is brought to you by First Southern Bank, Murphy Builder Supply, Van's Barbecue, and O'Quinn & Associates.
Hi, I'm Mandy Yeomans.
And I'm Raymond Brown with First Southern Bank. As your locally owned community bank, we're here to help our community grow. Our customers are why we are here. You can tell we want your business.
We offer all types of deposit products, personal and business. We have fast, efficient service, and yes, we have online banking too. I'm sure we have an account to fit your needs. Stop by or call us at 912-588-1010 and see how First Southern Bank can help you.
We're FDIC Equal Housing Lender.
Since 1946, Murphy's Builder Supply has been serving the folks of Jesup, Wayne, and surrounding counties with quality products and knowledgeable service. Matter of fact, they feel they sell service first to make sure you get exactly what you need for your home improvement projects. And with each employee at Murphy's being there for 10 years or more, you know you're talking with someone with the experience to help you with building supplies, tools, paint, and all the things you need from a full-service hardware store. The best choice in home improvement is Murphy's Builder Supply, 156 Northeast Broad Street, Jesup.
When it comes to barbecue, Van's Barbecue in Jesup is the place to be. A small family-owned business located at 1876 on the Savannah Highway. Van's Barbecue has lunch and dinner specials. Stop by or call to make an order. The number to call, 427-3358. Van's Barbecue's new manager is Sarah Van. Van's Barbecue offers potato salad, coleslaw, baked beans, and don't forget their delicious mac and cheese. Also, check out their shrimp plates, the best in town. Yes, when it comes to barbecue, head to Van's Barbecue, locally owned and operated. Stop by and tell them the Big Dog sent you. Once again, the number to order, 427-3358.
Do you know why most people don't invest outside work or at all? Because they don't know where to start and they don't know who to talk with. If this is you, give me a call. Hi, this is Sean O'Quinn. I can help set up a plan no matter where you are in life to get you on a suitable path to a sound financial future. Give me a call, Sean O'Quinn, at 912-385-1000 or stop by the office at 212 South 1st Street right here in Jesup. That number again is 912-385-1000.
The following is an exclusive presentation of Jesup Broadcasting, the sports leader in Southeast Georgia.
The world-famous Butch and Bob Show.
World-famous Butch and Bob Show right here on WIFO, 105.5 FM in Jesup, Big Dog Country Radio. Good morning, Bob.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
I'm good. I said to the coach show yesterday, I'm fired up. You know, Coach Shaw gets me fired up.
Coach Shaw gets you all fired up.
He's got me fired up for the rest of the week, so can't wait till Friday. Going to be a fun game.
And not only a fun game, but you've got all some of those older players coming back, like from the 59 team, and then a lot of other players coming back for 100 years of history of football in Wayne County. So ought to be a great evening there at JC Stadium Friday night.
Hey, last night the Touchdown Club Preston has got a publication on 100 years of football. So if you get a chance to get a copy of that, it's a real nice publication.
Right.
Pictures
they've been working on that for a while. Yeah.
But they're going to honor those championship teams on Friday night, so they're going to be on hand for the coin flip. They think they get a pregame meal for them, so I understand that people are signed up left and right for that, so it should be a fun night. But Coach J. Bo Shaw and Coach McDonald, the athletic, will be on hand tomorrow here to tell us all the details for that Friday night event at JC Stadium, but it should be fun. But I thoroughly enjoyed Tuesday's coach's show. I mean, if you get a chance on Friday night to listen to it, Coach Shaw does a great job of breaking down last week's game, talking about this week's game, talking about their players, but it's fun to do that show on Tuesday morning, and like I said, he gets me fired up for the rest of the week, so I'm fired up. Ready to go.
All right. Well, we've got a very special guest in the studio with us right now. Bob, who do we have?
We got John B. Johnson. Worked many years with the DA's office, now running for district attorney. I saw your sister, Cynthia, yesterday. She wanted me to remind you that she's both smarter than you and prettier than you.
Well,
and I agree with both of those statements.
She is my older sister.
But I saw her yesterday, and I said, I got your brother coming on the show tomorrow. She said, well, tell him I'm both smarter and prettier than he is. I said, I agree with that, but anyway.
I'm not going to disagree.
I'm a big fan of your sister, but anyway. But tell us why you decided to be a candidate and why you're seeking this position.
You know, as most everybody in Wayne County knows, I grew up as a prosecutor in my adult life since 1977. We began handwriting indictments to DNA in the 20s in 2020. When I left office, there was a built office, if you understand what I'm saying. We knew what we were doing. We were indicting defendants who needed to be indicted, doing that on a regular basis very quickly. We were prosecuting criminals. We were presenting evidence that was sufficient for a jury to return a guilty verdict. In January of 2021, all of that stopped. That's when my opponent took office. And since that time, people have become more and more dissatisfied with the direction that law enforcement in the district attorney's office has taken over the last 30 months. I go to a lot of meetings, and people keep telling me the problems that they're having with the district attorney's office. Not returning phone calls, not working with law enforcement, not taking cases to trial, dismissing cases for no reason, claiming that there's no evidence. There comes a point when you have enough, and there's enough of that. It's time for someone to step up and say, hey, we can do better. We deserve better. We can do better. We have done better in the past. And because people keep asking me to run for that office, I finally reached a point where I said, all right, I will do that.
How long were you with the DA's office? I mean, when did you first start with the district attorney's office, and how long were you with the DA's office? You've been there quite some time.
Yeah, with the exception of 1 month, I've served continuously from September the 1st, 1977, through the end of 2020.
Well, the big issue I got with the DA's office is there's nobody local. I've been here 41 years. You knew who people were, but all these assistant DAs that have come in, they've come in from Athens, come in from Atlanta, come in. It's like they can't relate to the juries of Wayne County. Just that Lester Dennison murder case was a disaster. I mean, the guy got shot in the back, and those suspects and on trial just walked free, and the only person that got railroaded was the poor girl that testified for the state, and she's still in jail, and all she did was drop them off at the Jiffy Mart. So, I mean, that's my issue. These people, they just don't seem to be able to relate to Wayne County jurors.
Well, I go back to when we left office. We had local people working in the local office who were trained, who were good prosecutors, and we had a hands-on district attorney. And I remember back to 2020 when my opponent was on your show, and he made the comment, he said, I'm not a trial lawyer. I'm a manager, office manager, and that's what we have. All of the 3 district attorneys that I've worked for have been trial lawyers. They have been in court. They have tried cases. They have been leaders in the courtroom. They've helped generate an atmosphere of respect and integrity in the courtroom. And when you walk in and you know almost everybody on the jury, you have some credibility with them. When you start bringing people from outside who don't know anything about Jesup, about Wayne County, or Glenn or Brunswick, Applin, then you lose that. There are people out there that want to work for the district attorney's office. They want to work. They're local, but they're not going to work for someone who's not going to be a prosecutor. I'm a prosecutor. I think everybody in town knows I try cases. I've tried more than 200 cases, more than 50 murder cases, more than 10 death penalty cases. I have that experience. And I look at my opponent, he hadn't tried a case in at least the last 5 years. And then before that, he was just a defense attorney.
Yeah, all the district attorneys I've worked with, and like I say, going back, it's been Glenn Thomas, Stephen Kelly, Jackie Johnson. They all tried cases. I mean, Glenn Thomas, if there's a high-profile case, it was his. He didn't hand it off to anybody. So, but you worked under former district attorney Jackie Johnson, and Glenn County is where she got defeated. And she took Wayne, Applin, Jeff Davis, and Camden. Again, this is a 5-county circuit, but Glenn's where she got beat pretty badly. Keith Higgins got the majority of the votes and won. So how do you make a dent in Glenn County, because you worked with Jackie Johnson?
Well, you have to understand what was going on at that time. There was a very, very major case where people were very adamant about their feelings. It was driven by the national media, and folks, what normally would have been a good vote for Jackie in that county got taken over by the media and by that feeling. And that's why she lost in Glenn County. She won in all the others. I've got good friends in Glenn County. I have good people working to help me. Also in Camden, Jeff Davis, Appling, and here. And you're right, Glenn County, there are some people who say they control our elections. They do to some extent. It depends on what you get in the other counties too. You can actually lose Glenn County and win the election, but that's not what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to make sure that what we have in all 5 counties is a working, effective district attorney's office. And most of the people I talk to, almost all of them, want the same thing.
You think that firestorm will come back, though? I mean, talking about the Almont Albury case, like I said, I went down there and I was there for several of those days in court. I went down and interviewed people down there that were protesting and things like that. I mean, it was just a crazy atmosphere down there. I mean, it was not a good time in Glenn County, but that's, and like I said, you're tied with Jackie, so they were against Jackie. So do you think that'll be a problem when you run down in Glenn County?
Well, I'm not Jackie Johnson. I'm John Johnson. We share the last name, but not kin at all. I was her chief assistant. I was also Steve Kelly's chief assistant. I was also Glenn Thomas's chief assistant. And that position basically is the DA saying, this is a person that I believe can fill in for me if something happens to me. 3 DAs felt that way about me. You know, I've been the man in the arena. I've not sat on the sidelines. I've been there. I've done things. The mistakes I made are mistakes I made, and I learned from them. The good things that I've done are well and good. In Glenn County, the obligation there is to do what's right, be there to give advice that a DA needs, not what they want, and then the district attorney has to make that decision of what they're going to do. Were there mistakes made during that time frame? I'm sure there were. And a district attorney has to take responsibility for that. But I'm not in the position of saying that I controlled any of that. And again, Jackie took her lumps unfairly, but she took her lumps and proved the old adage that no good deed goes unpunished. There were things she could not do, and that's what people wanted her to do. So in respect to that, I was there. I gave the advice that she needed. She made those decisions.
And you just joining us in the studio with us is John B. Johnson announcing his candidacy for district attorney. That race is in next November, is that right, 2024?
Yes, 2024.
So when would people qualify?
We will qualify in February of 2024. The presidential preference primary is in March. The primary for us would be in May, with a runoff in June if necessary. I don't think I'll be in that. And then November would be the general election.
Now, it's a party office, isn't it? I mean, you can run as a Republican or a Democrat. I know, is that going to take place this time? I know that the current DA ran as an independent and a write-in. Or is either one of y'all declared a party yet, or both are going to be independent and just run against each other in November, or any other people who may run?
First of all, I've heard of no one else that has indicated that they want to run for this position. My opponent ran as an independent, supported by the Democratic Party. They put him in their ballot of who to vote for, and he was endorsed by them. I'm a conservative. I was raised in a small town and with those kinds of values, and I have made the decision early on that I would run as a Republican. My opponent made comments the other day at the Republican Party and about how he was a conservative, and I asked him the question, are you going to run as a Republican? And his response was, well, I haven't made up my mind about that yet. So we don't know. But I'm committed to being a Republican candidate for district attorney.
I want to talk about that meeting. I said, unfortunately, I wasn't invited to that meeting, but I understand both you and your opponent were there. I understand you made some comments about the Attorney General, though. So I know what rumor is. Tell me what was said about the Attorney General, because we got him Friday on the Butch and Bob show. He's running for governor. So, but I understand you made some comments. So I just want to know what was said.
I was asked a question about the indictment, and my response was that I felt that it was politically motivated at that time by the Attorney General. He is running for governor, regardless of whether that's announced or not. And I believe that in order to become the Attorney General, part of what happened in Glenn County was that he used Glenn County and Jackie Johnson to do that.
Did you call him crooked?
Sir?
Did you call him crooked? That's what I heard.
No, I don't believe I use that word.
Okay, but speak about, what.
No, crooked is a very specific word for prosecutors and lawyers, and
Okay.
I don't use that word.
Okay, well, so you're saying that the indictment against her was politically motivated. Is that what you're saying?
That's my opinion.
That's your opinion. Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to clarify, because I said we got him coming on the show Friday, but like I said, I didn't get to go to that Republican meeting. So, what else was said at the meeting? What else was said?
God. I hate to bring this up, but there is a newspaper article that pretty well talks about that. I talked a lot about my background, how I was raised, how I got to where I am, what my situation is personally. I talked about the things that I see are going wrong in the office, a lack of experience, a lack of working with law, a total lack of working with law enforcement to make sure that the cases that get put before a jury have sufficient evidence for them to find a verdict of guilty. There have been, 13 or more not guilty verdicts in the last 30 months in this circuit. We didn't have that many in the last 5 years before January of 2021.
And you also mentioned, like I said, the current DA's dropped a lot of cases, some high-profile cases. How does that decision made? As a district attorney, because I know there's a lot of families that are upset. There was a couple of high-profile murder cases that just got thrown out, and they said, like you said, the statement was there's not enough evidence, but the families disagree. So, how does a district attorney make that call?
Well, there's this thing called prosecutorial discretion. And you can use it and you can misuse it. Using it means that you have to have experience working with trials, working with your juries, working with law enforcement to make sure that what you have is sufficient evidence. As I said, very few cases prior to January of 2021 did we find a lack of evidence in. And if some case was weak, we were able to go back to law enforcement and say, hey, can we get additional evidence? We worked with them to get to a point. You can hide behind that. You can look at a case, and we have district attorneys across the state who have decided they're not going to prosecute certain cases, and which is a violation of their oath. But you can hide behind, it's my discretion not to do that. Well, that's not necessarily true. I think what's going on right now is the lack of experience and the lack of working with law enforcement. I've done some research. I know that Jeff Davis County is the third our size. They've already had 150 defendants have their cases dismissed up to July 1st of this year, 130-something last year. In Wayne County, we're already up to 85 cases of defendants who've had their cases dismissed. And on track for 170 if it keeps up at this pace. We have things that have no common sense being done. You dismiss a murder case and let the defendant plead guilty to possession of a weapon during the commission of the murder that he committed, serve 3 years in jail, walk free. Those are the kinds of things that, you can use your discretion. You say, well, that's my discretion. But I think what you're doing is hiding behind that and not doing your job.
And as I mentioned, this is a 5-circuit, 5-district or 5-county circuit. It's Wayne, Appleton, Jeff Davis, Camden, and Glenn. Law enforcement is a big part of those circuits. A lot of people take their advice from law enforcement. You know all the sheriffs pretty well. You're seeking their endorsements.
Yes, I've talked to all the sheriffs, all of the clerks, all but one of the judges, and getting in touch with some of them has been a pain. But I've talked with all of them, offered my experience, offered my help. I get good response from them. Of course, I've been involved in politics almost all my life, and I understand the rules. They have their own races to run, and all I ask of anybody is right now is their voice. You have friends. Talk to your friends. Tell people. I think law enforcement supports me because they know that I am a hands-on prosecutor. They can pick up the phone at 2 o'clock in the morning and call me, which they used to do, and get advice when they're on the street. I tell the story, my wife knows more about search and seizure than most defense lawyers because of those 2 o'clock in the morning phone calls I get. I go to crime scenes. In Wayne County, if there was a murder, I got called, and I was there sometimes before the GBI ever got there, because you're going to try a case. So why not work with law enforcement from the beginning? And I believe I have their support because they know that.
Butch mentioned the party. Why is this a party race? If someone in my family gets murdered, I don't care if the person's Democrat or Republican. I want a district attorney who knows what they're doing. So is it just the way the system's set up? It's why do you have to run as a party candidate?
System is set up that way. You have to make a choice. There are counties in which local officials are run without a party label. That's not the way it is with the district attorney's office. You can be an independent. You have to go through some hoops. You got to get enough signatures to run as an independent. And if COVID had not come along in 2019, in that time frame, my opponent wouldn't be there. He didn't have enough signatures. But a federal judge reduced that because of COVID-19. There are philosophies of prosecution. There's a liberal philosophy, one where defendants are more important than victims, where you don't want to prosecute people. You actually almost look at a defendant as a victim, and I've heard you have a riot, stores are burned, and a district attorney calls that a community gathering. That's a philosophy. I have a conservative philosophy. Make a defendant responsible for the crime they commit. Make them reimburse victims for what they do. It does not matter to me who you are. There are 3 things that I look at. Was a crime committed? Do we know who did it? And is there sufficient evidence to try them on that crime? If not, you sit down, you work with police officers to get it. Nowhere in there does it say black or white, male or female, old or young, rich or poor, straight or gay. Those don't matter because that's the way our system of justice is set up. You simply look at whether a crime was committed, who committed it, and what the evidence is. And then you go forward with that.
I was a long-time prosecutor, you know as well as anybody, ever since the OJ case, it's hard to try a case. I mean, I know watching you try a case, you would tell jurors, this isn't like TV. You're not going to solve this case in 1 hour like they do. I mean, so why is it getting harder and harder to, try cases? Are people just more cynical, or they just don't trust law enforcement, or what's the issue?
In a small town, we have our own ideas about that. In the national scene, you have medias that have, and groups of people who have agendas, and one of those agendas is to marginalize law enforcement. You can defund them, which is part of what liberal philosophy is, but in our case, you can marginalize them by simply not dealing with them and dismissing all their cases. It frustrates me that I see them, and I do Facebook, that I see the little vignettes on there that of people just acting so totally outrageous against a police officer who's just, we hire him to do a job and give him training and say, go stop speeders, and people just go crazy, ballistic. Oh, and, as if they are the ones that are victims. I think it's an atmosphere that has come about nationally. I think it's different in small towns. I look at what goes on here. I look at what goes on in Jeff Davis or Glenn or Camden or Appling County. I think we all are different. We're small town people. We have a different set of values. We grow up wanting respect, wanting to give respect, being disciplined, having respect for our law enforcement officers who do a great job under some very trying circumstances.
And just joining us in the studio, John B. Johnson, run for district attorney. So when does the campaign? Is the campaign already underway? And how do you go about in the 5 circuits? I mean, you get
well for the last 5 months. Well, I say 5 months. Last 3 or 4 months, I have been going to meetings. I've been talking to people. Folks know that I'm running, and fairly quickly on, a lot of people did know, and because I believe that even though I may be known in a lot of counties, there are a lot of new people that are coming on to vote who have no idea who John Johnson is. So you have to talk, you have to go out, you have to be a part of meetings, you have to get support, and that's what I've been doing.
You convinced this is a 2-horse race? Nobody else interested?
As far as I know. I think at one point in time somebody was, but after I came out and what I heard, how true that is, what I heard was that they decided no, they would wait.
I only got one final question. Again, this is something that's really bothered me. This goes back to 1988. This is probably the highest profile murder case I ever watched in Wayne County. That was the Jones murder case. All that's been thrown out. The Supreme Court said there was not enough evidence. Jackie Johnson, the DA's office, said there wasn't enough evidence to retry it. All that evidence got lost. I guess the $64,000 question is, who killed the Joneses murder? Who killed the Joneses in Wayne County?
I think that's actually been proven. Larry Lee, in that particular situation, committed 2 crimes. He committed the crime here with the Joneses, and he committed a crime in Glenn County. At that time, I was running the office in Glenn County, and my response, although I was a part of helping Glenn with that case, he tried that case, as you pointed out earlier, but I was responsible for the case in Glenn County. In that case, we worked with law enforcement to the extent that we were able to create enough evidence that he pled guilty, and I think he's still in prison on that case, got a life sentence. In the case here, the evidence at that time, and that's all you can go on, is the evidence at that time was sufficient for a jury to find Larry Lee guilty of those offenses. Over the years, people die, and it's my experience on appeals that in high-profile cases, death penalty cases, when someone dies, then they are made I'll call them a scapegoat of what was wrong with that case. When Sherry Lee died, they had convinced her to give an affidavit, and of course that was part of it. They tried to argue in that particular case that a different case involving different circumstances was not given to them, and at that point things began to fall apart. Judges granted a new trial. And then, of course, the district attorney has to make a decision. Do you have enough evidence to go back to trial or not?
You're bringing back a famous story I tell about the legendary Stetson Bennett. He told me a long time ago, he said, I was asking about a case, he says, in time, memories fade, evidence gets lost, witnesses die, and sooner or later, there ain't no case.
That's a true statement.
I'll never forget that to the day I die. That's what he told me about a case I was asking about. But anyway, that's one of my favorite stories about Stetson Bennett. But anyway, appreciate you coming in. Again, our guest, John B. Johnson, a candidate for district attorney, and we'll follow the election closely. Any debate set up, you think? I'm sure they'll.
No, but I've actually thought about that. If somebody wants to have a debate, I'm proud to do it. But I want a face-to-face debate. I've seen the video debates, and you don't know what's going on behind the camera. I'm a trial lawyer. I talk to juries. I talk to people who are going to make a decision. And if we're going to have a debate, let's do it in front of a crowd.
Okay.
Okay.
Wish you the best of luck, and thanks
Thank
for
you.
coming
And
in.
I will say this. What I ask of people right now is their voice. Talk about me. I tell people John Johnson's running for district attorney. Hopefully that I'm a good guy, but that I have the experience that nobody else has in this race.
All right. Thank you very much for coming in.
Thank
Look
y'all.
forward to having you back on again later in the campaign. John Johnson, our special guest this morning on the world-famous Butch and Bob Show right here on WIFO 105.5 FM in Jesup. And it's brought to you by First Southern Bank, Murphy Builder Supply, Van's Barbecue, and O'Quinn & Associates.